Welcome to episode 3 of the Digital Rebar podcast from Aptitude Intelligent Integration. I'm Sam Holt, Managing Director of Aptitude. I'm glad to welcome Kieran Beggan as my conversation partner on the podcast today. Kieran is the co-founder and co-CEO of Fexillon, a pioneer in digital asset management that is transforming the smart building world with its enterprise platform. For 2 decades, they have led the way throughout Ireland and the UK, helping businesses push forward, reaching net zero goals by deploying the Fexillon platform. Now, they're also key players in the US for setting sustainability-focused asset management standards. Kieran, glad to have you here. I think it's been a long time coming. We finally found a way to get together here in Charleston.
Yes, Sam, thank you. And you're welcome to Charleston, where we've chosen to establish our US headquarters and to land and expand here. We're in the Charleston Tech Centre, so it's an exciting stage of our development. You mentioned there, we're obviously 20 years plus in our space, so extending from Europe into the US represents a significant milestone for the business, and obviously working with large owner operators in the mission critical sector. We're seeing continued investment globally in that whole area. So we're excited to be here, and we're looking forward to many years working with and continuing to work with those owners.
Great. If you could give us a little more on your background, how you got here, how Fexillon came to be.
Yeah, I suppose, look, my background is I would have studied building surveying in college, so technical engineering, building operations was kind of part of my education. Once I graduated, there was opportunities to do some postgraduate surveying in Ireland on behalf of the Office of Public Works, and from that there wasn't a massive amount of opportunities in the surveying space. So when I left college and finished out the postgraduate studies, instead of maybe waiting for opportunities to come, decided to strike out and formed Integrated Facility Solutions as it was then, and Fexillon as it is now. So that was 25 years ago. So that's how we started. I suppose our vision for the business was to digitize the built environment. As I say, when we were in college, a lot of paper-based systems were still in use. So we had the old drawing boards in the architectural classroom, where we had the forms for surveying on clipboards. So we definitely saw the opportunity, and the tech was starting to rise. So we wanted to digitize what was traditionally a paper-based industry, and we're still passionate about doing that.
So our teams have had an opportunity to work together over the past year or so, and we really appreciate how your team has taken that background and leveraged it, and really have a forward-thinking approach to solving these challenges we face in the AC industry. So if you could share with our listeners more about how the platform works and how your team has helped owner-operators implement a more future-forward, data-driven approach, managing assets and operations.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a tech company. Innovation has always been part of what we do. Obviously, we've matured over the years, and we're probably very early to adopt the cloud back in 2008. So our journey in tech obviously has brought us, close to owner operators and customers as we've progressed. And with their, I suppose, confidence in our domain expertise, we've been able to bring fairly innovative solutions to them in relation to how they manage their information, the delivery path of that information from construction to operations, and that knowledge transfer has been a really important part of Fexillon's journey. So that focus on the transfer of knowledge from construction to operations has seen us work with large property owners for many years, and extend our relationships with them across their build programs. And again, once you have that kind of relationship with those owners, consistently adding to their portfolio or investing in their assets, we're there to support that journey and to ensure that our team are working with the technology and supporting them in the delivery of their built environment assets.
So what are some of the specific benefits associated with the platform that, say, an owner of a hospital or a data center can expect to see?
I think in the mission critical space, it's very important for owners that they are really clear in terms of what their expectations are. And in the case of the owners that we work with, that's maturing as we go along. I think we were ahead of standards as we were developing the business. So standards have since caught up, which means we have good, stronger tailwinds behind us now. And there's, more of a, I suppose the adoption criteria has risen in terms of the expectation. So it means that we're, I suppose, maybe not educating the market as much as maybe we used to, in terms of having structured information delivery through from each of the stages. So we're working with standards now, like the REBA Digital Plan of Workers framework we have supported within the platform. The smart buildings overlay for that is obviously something that we're looking to support also. Standards like 19650, your ISO, which is supports Uniclass, and also ties in with Omniclass in terms of BIM standards. And so we're looking at pretty much global coverage now in terms of there's a push towards having more globalization in terms of standards and structure. So hence ISO have more or less taken on the previous British standard and brought it to an ISO standard. So we're supporting those standards within the platform. But it's important that owners look to adopt those in a structured way and look to deliver them as part of. So when my building is being handed over, I've got a very solid digital building record to a set of standards that I can build upon and gain value from in the early days of operation and then for the asset life cycle.
So with that life cycle and the smart building framework, how does that help owners and operators make decisions about the future of the building earlier in the process and even look at improvements down the road?
Yeah, I think there's two things there. I think you're going to see more of what a smart building should be called out in the specification process. So it's not going to be an afterthought, which probably up to now, I dare say, it's not necessarily been front and center of the discussion when investments are being brought through finance or when owners are looking at their portfolio of investments and their strategic reasons for making those investments. I think you're looking now at the longer term. I think owners understand that the asset life cycle is a costly life cycle, and they're looking at the carbon footprint. They've got a responsibility now with the different climate acts and bills that are being passed globally to report as a corporate body on their carbon footprint. So I think you're seeing CIOs, CTOs, CFOs coming together to really look at the as-built assets in a more strategic way, probably more so than ever. And that the justification for investing in the design process, investing in the tech from the outset, so that they can have better decisions during design, better visibility of the overall life cycle cost and life cycle analysis. I think they're all things now that are becoming more front and center for a lot of owners in terms of making these strategic investments. So I think that's a really positive thing for what we're doing and for the partnership that we're working on with Aptitude, because the cost justification and the business case is more at the forefront of those decision makers that are making those investments.
So with you mentioned some of the new regulations and laws coming out of Ireland, UK, EU, and other places, such as the Climate Action Plan or UK's Climate Change Act or Building Safety Act and Building 4.0 elsewhere. So how is that helping with the adoption of digital twins with your clients?
I think we're still in the relatively early stages. We hear a lot about digital twins, and there's still different views on the definition of what that is. For us, it's about a fully immersive experience in terms of the visualization of environments, but also in terms of the environmental factors and the controls that are within the building, and them being representative of exactly what, if I'm sitting in an office in New York and I'm viewing a building in Munich, I should be pretty much able to understand exactly what's happening in the building from a controls point of view, from an access point of view, from an occupancy point of view, from an indoor air quality point of view, and even be able to call into local resources remotely and see what they're seeing. So there's the technologies available now in terms of what we're doing with Twin, but also in terms of mixed reality. And we're seeing, I think, an opportunity to commoditize that more and to provide it in an enterprise grade secure solution for owners, which, again, like I said earlier, it's the responsibility of owners to report on their buildings and their portfolio buildings. So having ready access to their own information, which is fully secured and is reported from a secured environment, is going to be really important. So I think the impact of technology and the convergence of the capabilities of industry for the maturity of web access and security, ISO 27001. So you're looking at all of these different standards starting to align to ensure that the built environment is visually available for owners and that we can report on it effectively.
So are you seeing, when you and I were Digital Construction Week last year, the Building Safety Act was just now starting to come into play, and a lot of other builders and architects and vendors were running around trying to figure out exactly what to do with that. Are you seeing any kind of similar sense of urgency here in the U.S. now that you guys have a presence, and how's that starting to translate?
Yeah, we are. We're working on a project at the moment where we're, assisting an owner on the platform to do a full assessment of all their assets in a campus environment in the educational sector. And that's really to develop a carbon neutrality plan for their campus within the next 15 to 20 years. And they obviously want to stage that investment. But the business case and justification is that they want to become, they want to go on that path to net zero and upgrade their buildings and their stock to ensure that they can do that. And obviously they're doing that with the assistance of Fexillon platform, but also working closely with our engineering partners on that side as well. So there's going to be, I think, more of that activity taking place where owners are taking a proactive approach to looking at their overall ESG responsibilities, their corporate responsibilities in terms of reporting. And I guess with the EPA promoting, the latest directives from Washington, I think there's always going to be various stages of which owners adopt and accelerate. But I think you'll start to see some very strong reference sites where people are moving forward and starting to invest in their building stock in terms of bringing it up to a more sustainable level.
So are you starting to see just more adoption of some of the standards from a lead well reset in terms of air, water, and other resources?
I think there's a challenge, I think, with owners that have existing stock, that they understand what assets they own. So it's a little bit like saying, I'd love to have a digital twin of my building, but you obviously have an information delivery path from when, if it's a new build, it goes through construction. So, we have to manage the different stages in terms of the information sharing, the accuracy of the information, the revisioning of the information. And that's very much like your pathway to an effective twin and visualization of the environment that you want to manage. As much as brownfield sites or existing sites that don't have a accurate digital building record, or don't have a form of structured data available, that really requires then engineering resources and technology to capture that data in the field and then present it back to the owner in a way that they can make some strategic decisions about investments and capital investments to upgrade their portfolio.
So as a platform, you're able to work across different verticals, from hospitals, data centers, airports, big complex spaces that have a lot of technology that's got to be integrated. So how do you and your team modify based on those different verticals or building types?
Yeah, we've got experience across all those different verticals that you've mentioned. I think the big thing for us is to be adapt at different environments that we operate in. So we have a very experienced team. A lot of our team are with us, 3 years, 5 years, 10, 15 years. So we have a lot of experience embedded within the team, and from various specialist areas, electrical engineering, architectural qualifications, surveying, but all in the AEC sector, so that the main knowledge and expertise does transfer well across the different verticals, albeit the more heavily engineered facilities, gaining experience over time is an important aspect of working within the team. But we transfer knowledge well within the team, and we're generally there to support on focused or subject matter expertise within different verticals. The other thing that we're certainly very keen to do is to, and we're seeing this where we've got a lot of AEC kind of post-grad activity around people reinvesting in bringing up their experience around technology skills. So whether it's data analysts or looking at further qualifications in building information modeling, or looking at virtual design, construction, and upskilling in those areas. We're seeing that also, and then we're also seeing sponsored programs from big tech in terms of upskilling people into the likes of AI, or, as I say, in data analytics. So those are two areas I think where technology is certainly going to be playing a big part over the next. This year they're saying it's kind of a growth year for AI within the industry, and we have some development projects we're working on ourselves. We're a Microsoft independent software vendor, so we're obviously tying in with their OpenAI and Azure and working with their specialist partners to look at building use cases in an ethical and secure way for owners, which is really important because it needs to be controlled at an enterprise level for the owners that we work with. So there's a lot of areas that I think are going to be transformative in the next couple of years.
So you briefly mentioned Fexillon's a Microsoft ISV. So for anybody listening that doesn't understand or know what that means, can you
give us
some details?
Basically, we've been building out our technology on the Azure tech stack, and there comes a point where you can qualify for what's independent software vendor success programs within Microsoft, which gives you access to developmental tools and access to resources that supports that journey. So that may be training, it may be specialist subject matter expertise that we would be able to lean on in terms of, like I mentioned, AI or data analytics, various technologies that are available within the Azure tech stack. So that allows us to accelerate our investments in those areas with that support, and look at specific use cases that are first and foremost for our owners secure, but also very focused on delivering outcomes for those owners. So that leverage is really important in terms of our R&D roadmap, but also how we can use the ecosystem and the partners that we work with, who are also, say, gold partners or quite specifically qualified in certain areas, to help us to resolve business cases and to invest in the right way. So it's a very powerful program to be a part of. We're also fully available on Azure Marketplace, which is going to be a fairly scalable opportunity for ISVs to grow their business globally with different owners and customers. Because if a Microsoft customer has a consumption commitment on Azure, they call it a Microsoft annual consumption commitment. If they have that, they can purchase the Fexillon platform on Marketplace. So it certainly helps to include it in the overall technology budget for organizations that are looking at asset management.
So you've mentioned AI a few times, and I think everywhere we turn now, there's generative AI, there's low-level AI, there's a lot of different parts and pieces to it. Like, what are some of the challenges you see here, and how is your team and even the co-innovation approach we've got here, how do you see that helping solve some of those challenges?
Yeah, I think at the moment, I think from obviously our business is well established, so we're working with owners where we have, over the years we've coordinated a lot of information on their behalf. So you think of things like LLMs, large language models, how we can train those to assist in aid decision making. But it's important to understand that, because you have access to those LLMs, it doesn't necessarily give you a definitive answer. So a discretion is still required from technical experts before decisions are taken. So there's if you think about it as presenting qualified options to an engineer in the field, the engineer still has to have a level of experience to select the correct option that he believes is required for the scenario he's in. So, and that may require, a subject matter expert peer review before that decision is taken. So it's really how these use cases are formulated with qualified expertise in those domains. So we're looking at obviously training these LLMs, but involving those experts in reviewing how those options are being presented and the process for selection. So that's just an example. So if, for example, I went into a fault-based scenario in a critical environment, it might present 3 options, but how do I go through the selection process then based on what the model is providing back to me, So it's that's just an interesting use case, because if you think about a highly engineered facility, you're dealing with multiple systems, and all of them have various dependencies and are integrated with one another. So, an action on a specific system may have a default reaction somewhere else. So, I think in critical environments, you're looking at the selection process on what's being presented from those types of models.
So, do you see AI in its various forms, language models, different types of reinforcement learning or unstructured learning, really helping solve a lot of the network data and security challenges we see?
I think it can. It can certainly assist in a big way, especially with analysis and analytics of trends that we see with data. I think the other thing is that when you're looking at machine learning, you're, like I say, what would the pre-qualification rules be for automation, really? And I think that's where you're looking at moving more towards, semi-autonomous environments, autonomous buildings. And we can see autonomous cars are coming, but autonomous vehicles, obviously the automotive industry is further down the road in that regard. But there's a combination of technologies there that are being accessed and data that's been accessed to allow for autonomous vehicles. So I think the built environment is going to be going down a similar path. But obviously we need to have the data maturing as we go along. And, from working in the industry, you've got so many disparate vendors, we've got a lot of work to do to bring how we aggregate data together from all of the vendors before we get to a stage where we have more of a semi-autonomous built environment where buildings and environment spaces are reacting to what's going on around them. So whether it's external weather conditions or internal comfort, lighting, operation, energy consumption. So when you think about your PC, if you walk away from it, it starts to shut itself down. So when people walk out of a building at night, it should slowly start to shut itself down. And I think that's where we're headed.
So really helping drive a lot of the integration and work we've been talking about over the years. So we've been working on our Atlanta office for almost a year now, since you and I first got together out in Dublin over some pints and started trading philosophical war stories and good meeting of the minds there. So as we had a pretty good use case or specific use case in our Atlanta office with trying to figure out the actual utilization, who's using what spaces, who needs more space. So how has that helped your team and our co-innovation approach here develop over the year?
I think it's been really productive because you're bringing on a live environment, live office building. Like you say, there's a use case to try and understand, and it goes back to sustainability. Should we invest further in building more? Should we optimize what we have before we make a decision and engage with the various teams that we have in the building and that are using the building, and obviously tie in with the business more generally in terms of the strategy. So it certainly promotes the conversation. So when you look at an office environment, and you guys are obviously a building company and an integration company in terms of smart buildings, which are starting to utilize the technology to, I suppose, get to the forefront of it and start to make decisions make informed decisions based on data. So you can analyze the trends, the use of the building, how it's being used. We can start to monitor the occupancy rates. We can start to monitor the energy in the building. We can start to monitor how healthy the building is in terms of people's utilization of the building, whether they are enjoying access and using the building. And I think that being backed up by real data instead of just maybe say taking a survey at a high level to say, look, how is your user experience in your office, from a accessibility point of view, from a comfort point of view. You're getting that data, then potentially you're merging it with real data as to how the building is operating. So if you are going to invest further, maybe you can make some improvements overall to the user experience. So these things are more data driven. And I think that's just if you look at that on the scale of what we've done in your Atlanta office, and obviously we look to apply that to bigger buildings you have in your portfolio, the learnings from that will be really rich in terms of helping us to focus in on the areas when we're making bigger investments into larger footprints.
So how do you see the insights we're gaining from our work with the Atlanta office and some other projects that are really helping that full smart building framework and the life cycle of buildings?
I think you're getting feedback from a building in terms of, as I say, how the utilization is going in the building, how the systems are performing in the building, how the users are experiencing the building. So we're starting to see, how the building performs against an international standard for indoor air quality, for example. We're starting to see how, the energy consumption, is peaking in the building at different times and for what reasons. And again, that allows, as I said earlier, for us to start looking at then how we can maybe potentially have two-way bidirectional communication with the BMS system to program how the building should behave at different times, or allow the building to make its own decisions about the lighting in the building or the HVAC system in the building, how it's operating. So the building starts to slow down as the building is under less utilization and stress. It starts to slow down with its use. So it becomes more energy efficient and it becomes more comfortable for its occupants.
So what are you seeing are some of the misconceptions or challenges around digital twins that maybe we need to help people understand?
I think, there's probably various definitions of what a digital twin is. I mean, the physical replication of the digital visualization of the building is certainly a definition. And I would go further to say that your digital twin should have all of the component details fully documented and fully verified in terms of the carbon footprint of the building, for example, because that's required now more and more in terms of sustainability and the relevant reporting requirements. Then, of course, the building in use. So an operational building in use, we should have a full audit trail of all activities that take place as much as we can do. Obviously, we have to be mindful of privacy and we have to be mindful of certain types of information about people that maybe visit the building or attend the building, but we certainly should have a full audit trail of how the building is being utilised. And then that's universal access. So even if somebody comes in to do cleaning or someone comes in to do maintenance, exactly what they've done, when they've done it, I think that gives you a full record. So a twin of the building to me is every interaction that happens in and around that building as well, because we're tracking not just the physical aspect of it, it's the universal access and use of the building that we're presenting back to the owner. So, you can have the visualization aspect of that as well in terms of augmenting the building with, if monitors aren't designed into it, what are the key areas that we'd like to monitor in the building. And again, like I say, there's more and more evidence that from a cognitive point of view, from a health point of view, that the indoor air quality should be at a very high level for the use and occupancy of that building. And if you take healthcare environments, there's even more so, because you're dealing with virus risk and you want to look at preventing, you want to have lower TVOCs, you want to have lower particulate matter, because they can all have a virus risk in terms of transferring virus from one person to another. So that also could be very well said of educational environments where a room that's designed to hold 20 people and you've got a bit of a party going on and you've got 100 people in there. It's just not healthy. So the design intent and use of buildings is really important as well. So you take a building like that there where you have occupancy and indoor air quality sensors in a space. Both of those alarms are going to go off. They're going to tell you that a space is overoccupied.
So do you see the digital twin technology starting to move more into actual construction and implementation, even maybe at the start of design, to help drive some of these decisions?
Yeah, I think there's already technologies there in terms of environmental design that's been there for many years, in terms of trying to simulate what environments would do in terms of heat gain, solar gain, orientation of a building. And they've been available and used for a long time. But I think what the technology is allowing us to do now is to take a lot of that data and for that data to be owned by the owner during the operational life cycle. But there is a lot of use cases in construction for how we track commissioning, for example. So while we're commissioning the building, we're also starting to commission the twin that's going to be handed over to the owner. And again, all the various touch points that have happened to the plant and equipment in the building before it's been turned across to the owner for operations. So again, it's going back to that knowledge transfer from construction to operations. When you get the building handed over to you, you have a level of certification of the building to the point where the owner can pretty much review the full audit history in terms of how the building has been constructed and commissioned and passed through to his operation team.
How do you see the growth of an awareness of digital twins and the technology behind it driving this and improving it in the future?
I think at a building level, I think the adoption is going to be, fostered by the industry, but also by owners. I think have a huge part to play. And I think as an industry, we've got to present the owners with very positive opportunities to adopt technology. I think that's where, working with Fexillon and Aptitude, working together, have a great opportunity to showcase that and to try and, build a business case and demonstrate the ROI for the owners. Because there's some are tangible, some are more intangible. If you take it, for example, you want to encourage your workforce into your building. If you have a well-designed building which has comfort in mind, nice breakout spaces, nice communal spaces, nice facilities, but you've also got a standard that you can demonstrate and visualize to people that are in the building to say the building is safe, they're breathing clean air, they're drinking clean water, that all of these things are being monitored for environmental impact, that it's the responsibility of everybody to play a part in that in terms of waste and management. So you're encouraging and adopting an overall strategy to manage how your portfolio is run, and everyone is involved. And look, I think that will start to tie into HR. It already does, I think. I think there's definitely a movement towards HR tying into how there's cooperation around, how we're being sustainable. So don't take a flight if you can have a remote meeting, for example. Come into the office, in terms of user journeys. If you can carpool with somebody, why not? So there's various strategies in terms of HR that tie into it. Well-being is a big part of it. So you'll see here in the guys have a nap room on the floor here, so you can pop in there and take 10 minutes out if you're feeling a bit of stress. I know from our own business point of view, we're very supportive of our staff in terms of mental health and taking time out and making sure they take their holidays and they take time out. So all of those things tie into what's ultimately a healthy workforce, healthy organisation, and a healthy carbon footprint. And I think everyone's becoming more aware of that. And when they're looking at roles, they're looking at companies, looking at organisations, they're kind of keen to understand that they're looking at a brighter future in terms of how we own and operate assets, and how the agenda kind of fits in with people's own personal beliefs as well is important.
When Aptitude engages with clients and customers, we get a lot of questions on integration and how to make a lot of these use cases come to life, but not being so tied into one specific part or piece, or really looking to make sure the platform and the design can scale with them over time. So how do you see the platform and what we're doing here in our co-innovation approach to supporting that?
I think we're trying to demonstrate best in case, best in class, in terms of what owners can step into. I think there's also, I won't say there's a concern, but there's certainly an awareness of security. I think that's a big part of what owners are looking at when they're looking at a solution, to visualize their portfolios and to go on that kind of digital transformation journey if that's something they haven't stepped into already. I think what Fexillon platform offers is that information delivery path from design stage right through to your operational stage, and the ability then to use all of that accurate information to build out your visualization strategy on, for example, on the Fexillon Twin, but also utilising our mixed reality capability in terms of visualising environments, reducing your carbon footprint in terms of supporting your portfolio through your supply chain or directly, where you can train people in a safe environment, utilising immersive technologies. I think that there are areas that will start to come more to the fore in the AR, VR space. But ultimately, I think owners will look to adopt based on a business case that can demonstrate ROI, but also can demonstrate that they have full control and knowledge of their assets, and they have accountability pretty much tied into that at a boardroom level.
I really appreciate your time today. Always good to talk with you and share ideas, since there are so many overlaps in the work we're doing. We'll be sure to put a link on our website to the show notes in case our listeners want to learn more about Fexillon platform and digital twins in general. Thank you, Kieran, and for being part of our podcast.
Thanks very much, Sam. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to continuing our exciting development and our partnership in the years ahead.